Palatka Community Redevelopment Agency meeting for February 10th, 2019 at 11, not 10. Thank you. We're going to call this meeting to order at this time. We'll have our pledge of allegiance and our invocation by Mr. Holmes.
Bow our heads, please. Lord, we come to you tonight, first thankful for all the blessings that you bestowed on us and continue to bestow on us every day. We ask that you help us tonight to act civilly and in the best interest of the city of Palatka in performing the tasks that we all have before us. In Christ's name, amen. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much, Mr. Holmes. Roll call, please.
Mayor Terrell Hill.
Here.
Commissioner Mary Lawson Brown. Present. Commissioner Rufus Borum.
Present.
Commissioner Justin Campbell. Present. Commissioner Tammy McCaskill. Here. DPI Incorporated President Sam Deputy.
Present.
Putnam County BOCC Representative Jeff Rawls. All but one of your members are here, and I believe you have a quorum.
Just for the record, Mr. Rawls hasn't been appointed yet, so
okay.
his attendance won't be counted for today. He doesn't become an official member until Thursday. Moving forward, has everyone had an opportunity to look at the minutes from the December meeting?
Motion to approve.
There's a motion on the floor. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, motion carries unanimously. Moving on, public comments. Public comments will be limited to 3 minutes. No action will be taken on topics of discussion. Is there anyone here for public comment? Mr. Russo.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Vito Russo, 415 Emmett Street.
Yes, sir, 415 Emmett Street, yes. I worked very hard in that house this weekend.
See that little bill up there now. I gave you the invitation now.
Yes, I have an invitation, yes. It's very kind of Miss Mary.
I was just telling the mayor to see this little bill I gave him up there to remind you. You got 3 minutes.
Yeah, I only need 1 minute. I just wanted to have 2 requests. I'd like the CRA board to consider expanding itself to include a representative from the north side and the south side, as there's a rep from the central TIP districts. So I'd ask the CRA board to consider that. And then I'd like to bring up the request that we made prior to this meeting about reforming the Southside TIP program. We had a big Southside neighborhood meeting, and we voted practically unanimous to reform the Southside TIP program. So our current policy is to have the Southside TIP district program to reflect the north side, and the north side has just the house improvement program. So we would like to eliminate the 3 programs that only apply to 1 or 2% of the South Historic District. So these programs really aren't widely used, and we don't feel like our limited resources are well spent in these other 3 programs. So we'll be bringing that issue up to the CRA board. So that's the only 2 issues I wanted to bring up and remind the CRA board of. So.
Any comments from the commission or from the agency? Seeing none, thank you, Mr. Russo. Anyone else here for public comment? Seeing no one, we'll close public comment. Moving on to our agenda, item number 1, special events cost share program, final draft, recommendation to the city commission for adoption.
Just as a refresher, these are the minutes from October when it was discussed. Okay.
Board members, back in October, you reviewed this program, and there were 2 recommendations. The first being to specify the amount of funding based upon the class within it, A being up to $2,500, Class B up to $1,500, Class C with no funding. And the second was to clarify that no funding would be granted to a not-for-profit conduct an event that would be in competition with a for-profit business. So if you flip to the program, and I apologize, we tried to make these corrections right after the meeting, and we may have to make an adjustment. In paragraph 2 on the first page of the program description, you can see that it actually calls out the maximum cost share award shall be $2,500 for a Class A event, $1,500 for a Class B event, and shall not exceed 25% of the event expenses. If it's the pleasure of the board, we can insert in there $0 for a Class C. That was an oversight on staff's part. We apologize for that.
The next sentence does say, no funds shall be awarded for Class C events.
Oh, there it is. I just didn't read far enough. Thank you, Mr. Egerton. Maybe I did get it right. All right, so that one's addressed. And on page 2, item number 8, you can see that language reads, promotional special events hosted by a not-for-profit organization that has a for-profit business are not eligible for funding if the event is similar in nature to the for-profit business activity or operations. We just don't want to be in the business of making money for people if they have a for-profit branch.
So what happens if you got people that selling food? We got all these restaurants, you know, some of these groups have barbecue bake-offs, I mean, you know, stuff like that.
We can strike this.
I'm just asking the question for everybody else, so somebody can tell me.
I had the same question,
But
just for the language.
why did I remember this discussion, but why did we insert that?
Again, it's something that we found from 2 other programs from boards that have been running special events cost shares for a number of years. So we believe they encountered this and included this in there. If this isn't something that the board wants to see, we can strike it. And as you're aware, as we have issues with these programs, as we put them in place, we always bring them back for revisions. As we encounter specific instances, it may be that we may not encounter an instance where this requirement is needed.
It already does affect, I think that in the past, the African-American cultural people, at some of their things, they've had barbecue bake-off, contests and tailgating stuff, and some other stuff with other things. So
And
it may be where,
that would be up under their special events permit.
Right.
Yeah, I think the key language is sponsored by,
Right.
at least as I read it. If the event is sponsored by not-for-profit agencies, there would be one consideration. If it's sponsored by a for-profit agency, then different.
So, Jonathan, let me just ask you, I'm going theory, just trying to understand. So let's just take the restaurant idea and/or a bar, and they decide to host a cook-off of some sort, but it's so limited that that particular business is going to be the business that benefits.
That has a.
Is that what we're talking about here?
Gotcha.
No, I think this is more related to a not-for-profit that has for-profit business activity. I'm trying to think of a specific instance in our downtown, and it's escaping me. I just know that there are some nonprofits that can have a for-profit business activity, and they actually declare that. So
I don't understand that myself, to be honest with you.
And I wish I could come up with an example for you. Maybe
Well,
we need to table this.
I do understand it, because in the church world, if my church rents out the fellowship hall for a non-church function, we have to pay tax on that rental fee,
That's not.
right?
It's not the same thing.
That's not the same thing, but it's still the idea that a nonprofit has
What it is.
to no, that's not the same. But
Paragraph 8 states promotional special events hosted by a not-for-profit organization, okay, say Azalea Festival, say PYP, that has a for-profit business. So technically, you're saying that if PYP had a restaurant that it owned, then it wouldn't be eligible for funding. That's the most blatant, I guess, or obvious example I could give.
what about your food trucks? I
He's
mean,
not eligible for funding if the event is similar in nature to for-profit business activity. Yeah, I don't know, that's a bit confusing.
yeah, what about your, food trucks? If they have food truck rallies and that kind of stuff,
So I guess it would be like if you had I don't know if this scenario would ever develop, but let's say you had ABC Corporation, which is nonprofit, and it owned a Sonny's, and then it held a barbecue cook-off. Trying to connect the dots. That's a special event hosted by a not-for-profit that has a for-profit business, which would be Sonny's, not eligible if the event, which would be barbecue cook-off, is similar in nature to a for-profit business activity or operations. But those are a whole lot of dots to connect in order to make it ineligible.
It's a lot of oversight.
If you look in the minutes from when you discussed this, the Arts Council was an example given of a not-for-profit that hosted multiple events, and then you discussed it further 2 paragraphs later, sponsored by not-for-profit agencies, specifically those with for-profit businesses, referencing paragraph 8 on page 2, which would be this. It says, Mr. Griffith concurred that this language does need to be made clear. It's intended to protect businesses in the district. Discussion ensued regarding the limits on grant awards, limitation of 4 years for funding, blah, blah, blah. But that was where you discussed it again. So you discussed it twice.
I don't have a problem with the language being in. I'm just saying that I don't see many scenarios where it's going to be applicable. That's all I'm saying. So that's not a problem. It's not a problem. I'm just, there's 3 different criteria that have to be met there. Not-for-profit that has a for-profit business. It doesn't say that you invited one to participate. It says, the way it's worded, hosted by a not-for-profit organization that has a for-profit business. So you got to have a not-for-profit that has a for-profit business. And then the next step is, if the nature of the profit business activity is basically the same as what's going to take place at the festival. So you got a number of dots there to be connected. I'm not objecting to it. I'm just saying.
Well, you got the Salvation Army, and you got the Conley House. They're for nonprofit, and so if you had somebody come in here to do something for them, is that where it says it would affect the profit business in there?
They don't have for-profit businesses to the best of my knowledge.
The agency that's putting on the event, if it's a nonprofit agency and they own a business, correct? That's what I'm hearing. They own a for-profit business.
That's the way the wording is now. I'm not sure that's what it was intended, but that's where the wording seems to be pointed.
I think we probably need to clear it
And
up.
I'll give you, for instance, on Lee Conley House does owns and operates a thrift shop, and that's
Yeah,
nonprofit.
profit business.
But none of its events revolve around its thrift shop. They're all awareness events, usually for Domestic Violence Awareness Month, things like that.
Okay, let me ask a theory question. So every nonprofit has 3 alcohol licenses a year. So if my nonprofit sells my alcohol license to use for an event here, and I get an outside vendor to handle it, they're not for profit, they're using my 501c3, my free alcohol license to serve, and I'm bringing them in from out of town. And then I'm asking the CRA to put the city fees.
One, I don't think you can sell your license.
No, you can. They do right here in Palatka. You can let other people use
They can
it.
work
You can't
they can
sell
work
it.
underneath.
Yeah, they can work underneath it, and they can make you a donation.
Yeah.
Or you can get in trouble, but I know that has happened here in Palatka.
There's a lot of gray.
That's a lot of
gray.
work.
I think we're getting way
Well-
deep in the woods as
Yeah.
it relates to this.
We need to be clear.
Can somebody leave that out?
We got
That
some
word?
things out there we need to understand.
Yeah, because somebody come and ask me that, I couldn't explain.
Yeah,
You can strike it. All right.
go for it.
You can, I mean, if you're adopting this for recommendation to go forward to the commission, then you can have, there has to be some language in there or some direction as to what the language is. You can remove it and have it brought up at a later time and always add it into your program. But with the level of confusion that's there right now that relates to this, the easiest thing to do is strike it. And because it just, I understand the intent, and I think the intent is good, but I just think that there's too many steps to oversee considering what you have in place.
You want a motion to do this right?
Well, I want to make sure we go through all the changes beforehand.
Those are the only two changes, sir.
Those are the only two changes that we have. If we have any other questions before the agency? Let the record reflect that Jeff Ross, Commissioner Jeff Ross is here. Any other questions? If not, I'll entertain a motion at this time.
So moved.
You want your motion is
Motion to strike.
Paragraph 8.
and accept, is that to accept the rest and just strike 8? Okay, there's a motion on the floor to accept the cost share program with the reduction of number 8.
Was that made by Mr. Deputy?
Made by Mr. Deputy, seconded by Commissioner McCaskill. Is there any further discussion on the motion?
Question.
Questions called, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries unanimously. Moving on, thank you, Mr. Griffith. Moving on to item number 2, request for special events funding, $2,500 for Palatka Azalea Festival, Sandy Nelson for Palatka Downtown Experiences, the applicant.
Hi, yes, we're asking for, the Downtown Palatka Experiences is asking for $2,500 from CRA to directly offset the city fees for the 73rd Florida Azalea Festival.
Can you give a breakdown of what the fees would be used for?
The fees would be used directly for the city of Palatka. The expenses right now would be $3,600, and the $2,500 would be applied to that.
So you hear, there's a request for waiver of fees of $2,500. Any further discussion? Any questions from the commission, from the agency?
Is that what we said we could,
That's your
For a Class A event.
When I say event,
Say up to, we say up to, or did we say?
the max is
Right, the
$20,000.
max. Right.
I'll say that, make a motion that we do that.
Motion on the floor, by Commissioner Brown, a second by Commissioner Campbell. Is there any further discussion?
Question.
Questions called, all in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, motion carries unanimously. Moving on to item 3, thank you very much. It's pretty painless, right? It's pretty painless, right?
Oh, yeah.
Moving on to item number 3.
I have a question regarding that. Is the 25% of their entire budget, because it was annual?
Right, okay. Yeah, that's,
I'm sure
they
their
need to
budget's
bring that up.
Is it okay?
$2,500.
It was
More
and/or?
than 10,000.
I believe, I don't have it in front of me, but I believe I heard that it was.
You want to say or,
The income, go back.
The budget's in the back.
It says the maximum cost share award shall be $2,500 for Class A event, $1,500 for Class B event, and shall not exceed 25% of the event expenses. And so, and
so event.
Our projected expenses are $1,978.
Oh,
I'm sorry, there's a messing thing, it's $19,778.
okay,
Okay.
okay,
What the difference a comma makes, right?
okay. That'll work.
no. As long as their expenses over 10,000, you're fine.
We're good.
Which we know.
I didn't have that.
There it
Okay.
is, right there.
All right.
I made it clear.
Number 3, tax increment fund financial report fiscal year 2018-19 first quarter, October 1st through December 31st. Ms. Becker.
Good evening. We have the first quarter report for you, the TIF revenues and the expenditures. We have billed the county, and I believe that they were posted after December for the TIF or the property taxes for their share. The only a couple of things that I will note based on the revenues is that the property appraiser values were much higher in July for their estimated amount. I say much, a few $1,000 or a few, about $20,000. All reflected about a $6,000 change ultimately. Whenever they gave our final valuation, and that is in October. So between that and then budget was based on a higher county millage rate, and they ended up lowering their millage rate after we approved the budget. So you'll see a little bit of fluctuations between the 2019 and the current revenues when all of them are posted, but it's all across all 3 districts. It's roughly $6,000. Other than that, everything's on target.
Cumulative across all 3?
Yes.
Any questions?
Thank you.
I have a question.
Yes, sir.
I don't have my appointment yet, so I'm not voting, but okay.
But you can ask questions.
Okay, on your 18 revenue, you're showing 175,000 and your year-to-date is 0 for the county. I'm on page.
Right,
There's no
for the
page.
revenues.
Yeah,
Correct. So this is year-to-date, so this report says year-to-date, but it is as of December for both columns. So it'll show you as of December in 2018 and as of December in 2019. We don't bill the county for their revenues until December. So they're actually posted now in our system, but because this is a first quarter report, you won't see them reflected.
so if I had a current, what would that reflect?
469,259.
And that would be total on all 3 TIFs?
Hold on a minute. That's on the,
That's on the county side, or?
hold on a minute. You have 200,947 for the downtown county share.
Oh, okay, so that's 200,000 what?
200,947 for the downtown county. You have 57,118 for the south, and for the north, you have 23,426. That's what will be posted. And so
Okay.
you'll see that on the next quarter report.
So that's a little less than 300,000?
Correct.
Okay. And is any of that encumbered, or is that unencumbered?
So if you see back here, this expenditure sheet does include encumbrances on the expenditure side. So you will be able to see a total for each district, how much has been encumbered. Now, what you'll notice is in the transfers, you'll see 0 throughout the entire year because those transfers are not done until the year end, which
Does reflect
September.
does reflect on October 1st, or would that be?
It will be, yes, October 1st of next year. So when we close our books, you'll see that the complete amount for the 11,100 will be expensed.
Okay.
That'll be a year-end report.
And just for clarity, all the revenues or all the expenditures are lumped into one. They're not broken out. There's no county and city obligations. Okay.
No, sir.
So can you obligate funds that you've not received from the county, or how does that work?
It's based on a budget. So your budget is going to be set based on what you expect to receive from there. However, as soon as they come in, we do a 6-month review, and we'll look at the budget compared to what we bring in. So when I say that there's like 6,000 across all 3, we'll look at that and we'll see where we need to make cuts,
Okay.
appropriate cuts.
What I'm driving at is you're saying that you have received the money from the county. There's no reason to go back to the county and say we need to get on the ball and.
No, we've received the money from the county. Yes,
Okay.
sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir. It's just not reflected in this report because it came in after December.
So is it typical of this board to look at reports that are not current, or?
You look at quarterly reports,
Right.
and because the timing of our meetings,
Mhm.
so we don't close the quarter, or the month is going to be about a month after before we have all the postings. So this is the first meeting since our close of January, or our close of December. So there's a month
Okay.
lapse.
Okay, I got it. Makes it a little more difficult to actually be able to.
Now, I mean, if I can always do a year-to-date report instead of a quarterly report, if that's what the agency would prefer. We do that for the commission.
I would think from where I sit, it would be a lot easier to understand what's currently available and not
I'm happy to
projecting
do
out.
whatever the agency prefers.
Any comments from the agency?
I'm
I make a motion.
understanding what you're doing
Yeah,
now compared to
Well,
before, so I want to say thank you.
Oh, good.
she's doing an awesome job, but just for the record, well, what would it take for you to have a up-to-date, the current, like, up-to-date?
I look at them regularly all the time so I can pull a report.
Okay, so if that be the case,
If that's
then
what
I'll
you-
make a motion to have an up-to-date 4 hours a night.
Now, what I will
report.
say is that if you get a monthly, it's a lot easier to look at it in a quarter to see fluctuations because we may receive something in 1 month that we don't expect to receive the next month, or postings are a month behind on some things. So what you think is reality as of today, for instance, in February, may not be real by the time we get at all of the postings.
Right.
We might have received something last week that we haven't posted
Right,
yet.
right.
So you just have to keep that in mind, and I do always put a note on our commission reports that say that, so.
Can I make a suggestion, maybe a
Sure.
month-end report, like one that would have ended the end of January, which would be for the February meeting?
Right, I can do that.
Okay.
Got a motion on the floor. Is there a second?
Second.
There's a motion on the floor and a second. Is there any further discussion on the motion? Seeing none, questions called. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries unanimously. Moving on to reports. SBDC, first quarter fiscal year 2018-19. Cheryl Lynch, SBDC. Ms. Donaldson.
Thank you. Cheryl is here, so if you have any questions for Cheryl, she can certainly answer them, but I just wanted to make sure, I think you all received this electronically. This is the City of Palatka quarterly activity report for the October 1 through December 31 quarter. And Cheryl did look over the client list from that quarter and ascertained that about 44% of the clients for the last quarter of the first quarter in this fiscal year, the last quarter of last year, were in the CRA district. And I think previously that number has been in the low 60s to mid 60%. So I'm sure it fluctuates based on the number of clients, and the last quarter of the year is always a slower quarter, but for that quarter it is 44% of the clients in the district. I also wanted to point out that for the economic impact reported, we are completing our annual survey of all clients from 2018. It will be done and closed on February the 19th, so that will be entered in the next quarterly report, any impact reported by those clients, as far as jobs created or sales increased or contracts awarded. I also have a copy of our 2018 overall regional performance. I didn't know if that would be of interest, but this is for our whole 18-county region.
Is
And
that part of the electronic one that you?
I'm not sure if that one was sent electronically. It was just completed, so I brought some hard copies, which I can certainly send electronically.
No, we have a pack, I have a packet
Right.
here. I'm looking at it.
I do not believe it includes the 2018,
Okay.
because it's for the whole region, not City of Palatka.
Okay, thank you, appreciate it.
Yes. And it obviously does not include that economic impact that will be collected on the survey as well.
See your contacts, number attendees to outreach events, 11,925.
For the overall region, or for the,
For Palatka.
Performance Palatka.
oh yeah, and that would include newspaper coverage.
Any other questions from the agency?
I have one.
Yes, sir.
Can you tell us about, you guys had a meeting I wasn't able to attend last month regarding workforce development?
Yes. Yes, our advisory council had two issues that were of importance. One was the workforce shortage and how small businesses can address that workforce shortage, and the other was about outreach in the Hispanic business community. So we had subcommittees meet on both of those topics, and we had Candace Moody, who's with Career Source, as our expert at that focus group meeting on workforce shortage. It affects several industries more so than others, construction being one of those, and also logistics and medical, healthcare related industries. So we talked about some ways that we could partner with our public school system to try to get more technical training, and with our state colleges in certain areas. We talked about mentorship and apprenticeship programs and a number of other ideas. One of the things that has come out is it used to be Innovate Northeast Florida, and now there's a new name for it, and it's a 7-county region economic development, which it would include Putnam County, and they have a whole workforce segment of that, and it includes things that are really interesting, like signing days. You know how athletes have a signing day? Well, having it for kids graduating from high school that have jobs. You know, not just you're going to college and great for you, but you know, you're signing with this corporation that you're going to work there, you know, after you graduate from high school. So putting maybe more visibility on the fact that you know, college is not right for everybody, and there are a lot of good jobs out there that require technical training that could be of benefit. So there were some solutions, some, you know, at least start in that area. But we were looking for ways that the SBDC could help with this, because we get a lot of clients and they come in and they say, hey, I can't find good workers, you know, what should I do? So we were just looking for ways that we could have better suggestions than just, gosh, that's terrible. You know, that's a big problem, and what can we do?
I have a question for you.
Yes.
The superintendent of schools has 3 different sections he's divided. Is it 3 or 4? 3. That he's divided off, and they're looking at solving some of these problems. You all are meeting with them?
Yeah, we definitely should. We really were brainstorming the problem, and we haven't gotten to the next steps of meeting with the
But the school board, they're looking at that, they're trying to reduce their
Great.
Graduation rate. They're trying to put stuff in the schools that will give people more jobs. And I would suggest that maybe you call and talk to the superintendent or assistant superintendent, Tommy.
I would definitely.
For bullying, so that you all can be included. I find a lot of times stuff goes on and we don't communicate well enough, and we don't get all the information that would help us move forward faster.
Thank you.
I do know at the schools, even in the middle schools as well as the high school, they have a number of different workforce programs. It's very, and it's pretty active, like welding. They got automotive, and also they got robotics, culinary. They got IT certifications. But first, you got to get the kids interested. You got to get a lot of the kids. They're not really interested, so how do we reach them where they're at to see how we can plug them into different programs? It costs a lot of money to run these different programs, and when kids are not filling these classes, then they don't carry the classes forward. So,
Ms. Lynch.
Actually, last year, we worked with the school system and had, I believe, 6 businesses come in and talk to a class of about 60 juniors, for those that would be interested in not taking the college path, but to try and do an internship with the business during their senior year, so when they graduate, they're all trained up and then they can go into that business. We had 2 students interested. So it's just a matter of continuing to pound the pavement and keep trying more and more options.
Commissioner Rose.
I met with the folks from Career Source last week, and what I encourage them to do, because they have a voice that can get this done, is not just focus on high school students. A huge segment that's missing is your 19 to 30-something year olds that have no skill sets whatsoever. And if Palatka is a struggling city that needs to be revitalized, you're not going to get anything done until you have a workforce. And the same thing with the county. So I would encourage this board, to the extent that it can, to encourage participation not only by the school district, but outside agencies, and possibly get a conversation started between the SBDC, Career Source, the school district, city and county commissions, to push forward an agenda that would include skills training in the form of masonry, electrical, plumbing, carpentry, brick and mortar type skills training that is going to take to be able to revitalize not just the city but the county as a whole.
Mr. Campbell.
Kind of piggybacking off what Commissioner Rawls said, that's something that I've been working with, and I've been tasked with through the school district to actually come up with that black book of businesses that will be willing to, from the standpoint of the high school students, that will be able to intern as well as hopefully turn into workforce. I've actually went to the extent of talking to county administrator about them mimicking what we're doing here on the city level as well. So we're definitely making a stride, but I haven't really even thought about the age gap that you talked about, but that's something that I can take into consideration as well in hopes of making sure that the Black Book expands beyond the high school. And if there's anything, I know I'll be contacting you so that we can set up kind of what you did the last year, because I heard about it, and that's something that we want to set up for this year as well.
You can just chime
in. Basically, what I'm proposing is that as many agencies as possible, as soon as possible, we get together and start looking at. It would take nothing to dust off an old textbook because carpentry hasn't changed, block masonry, brick masonry, and but there's a large workforce out there that has the ability to physical ability to work that aren't that don't have the training to come to work for a construction company or an electrical company or plumbing company. But I promise you this: if you need plumbing service, electrical service, or roofing repair right now, you're shopping out of town to get any kind of labor, and you're paying premium prices. So the poorest county, the poorest city, and in Florida, and we're at a decided disadvantage when it comes to getting work like that done.
But you can't find it anywhere, but just because the people who have the skills for those trades are, they're of age, they're older now, and the young folks aren't adopting the trades, and that's some of the stuff you see with JFG and some of the other organizations here trying to push it, and so Wealth Watchers and some of these other folks have been really pushing workforce development activities, and it's just a matter of cumulatively getting together and making it happen.
We're paying framers $200 per person per day. So if people could just get the message out, that blue collar is the new white collar, be a lot better off for it, because I don't know how many people up here wouldn't work for $200 a day. That's a pretty good way to start off a career out of high school.
I guess my question would be, as a follow-up, because I'm the type of person, what are the next steps? We've identified how would we make that happen? Is that something that you would help kind of help us join forces, or how can we move forward with trying to get this on the road if it's a possibility?
If I could be king for a day, I would set up some sort of committee that would include Career Source, SBDC, city and county commissions, and I'm really at a loss for how our technical training is going right now. But we need to have a technical training center in Putnam County that it belongs to us, collectively as a county. That's not tied to First Coast Technical. This is my opinion, obviously. But if we did, where back in the day when I first moved here, I took a welding class at high school. They taught masonry, they taught carpentry. As an adult, I took this. I was 24 years old and I learned how to weld because I wanted to learn how to weld. I think if we could get back to those type of skills training, but we also have to have a skills training center. And God knows we have a lot of vacant real estate laying around here. So I personally have offered to volunteer my time as a contractor. I was asked if I'd be willing to come in and teach when FCTC was looking at going off of Mosley or Hudson, and the answer was yes, and it still is.
So St. John's River State has actually come on board to deal with some of those issues from the technical side. First Coast Technical pulled out of their welding program at the barge port, and so you're starting to see the advanced manufacturing program where they just got the additional appropriation and funding, and GP actually put about $250,000 into that program. You're seeing St. John's try to take up some of the slack that was left by the void in First Coast to deal with a lot of those issues. You still have welding and some of those other things in the high schools. What we're missing from the high schools that's been traditionally there has been the masonry and the carpentry aspect. But the welding is still there. You've got all the other magnet programs per se that have come into place. But that conversation has been it's been really pushed. The chamber pushed the conversation initially with St. John's, and so there are partners throughout the community that are kind of already on board. It's just a matter of, again, getting the other businesses that aren't necessarily a part of the chamber involved, so that you can have, I think, more of a cohesive group.
And to Commissioner Campbell's point about next steps and what we could really do, what I think the SBDC can do is when you have programs that need businesses to host interns and provide on-the-job training and jobs when they graduate, I mean, I think we could play a role in letting small businesses know that it was out there. And I think that was our whole point in convening the group was, there's a lot of good things going on. How can we let small businesses know how they might find the help they need in finding additional workforce?
Well, I'd like to set up a meeting within the next week or so, so that we can get the ball rolling, because I think we're coming up to a critical time, especially over the summer. If we can provide some kind of workforce experience or partnerships with our various community businesses, I think that'll be a great thing. The more the merrier. I know we have the city. I know we have like data busters and those things. Superintendent actually had a meeting where some of the commission attended, where you had just the Palatka Housing Authority, Palatka Gas Authority stated that they would be able to benefit from having an intern that would be able to run their social media, because there are things that, high schools would be able to do that they have no idea about. So I think if that partnership can happen, I think that'll be a great thing, and I think that'll start getting our kids excited about the workforce experience. So I would like to set that meeting up within the week.
Because now these kids don't want that physical work. They want that sit in front of a thing and play all day.
I think part of it too, though, is getting the mindset shifted to where blue collar skills are appreciated and not frowned upon. I can promise you that nobody sitting at this dais right now can lay block anywhere close to people like T.R. Cohen's, and T.R. retired. You're not going to get him back. His skill set went with him. We don't have a bunch of young folks that are out there trying to learn the skill sets. Like Mr. Hill was saying, if you did an average age survey at most large construction project, it's north of 45, way north of that. And so I can't encourage it loud enough. If the St. John's Community College or St. John's River College is taken over, I would hope that they're willing to offer some sort of technical training like St. Augustine Technical Center used to have. And what I've seen lately, the Regional Leadership Academy last year, I was part of that. We were asked to come up with an actionable item, and collectively 3 independent groups came up with the same thing. And the actionable item was workforce development. And it's not just construction trades. There are people that are in hospitality are complaining about not being able to find people that want to work and that have skills in it. Medical's another big one. Everything. Everybody's hurting. I talked to a guy that has a running shoe store, and he was complaining about not being able to find qualified people. So, part of the series task could be, if we're going to be the community redevelopment agency, then maybe we need to take a look at developing a workforce that's.
Well, you know what? The other thing these kids tell you, they're not going to work for that little bit of money.
It's not a little bit.
Look, I know now they don't realize how much you get paid.
Yeah.
But they tell you right quick, that's all you take. And they want as much as the boss gets, but you got to find some way to.
Well, let's do this. And if it's okay with the agency, what we can do is for our next CRA meeting, or in the interim, maybe have someone come in to talk about ways in which we can create workforce development and bring the structure together. I can get with Fred Washington, who was formerly with USDA, when we were having the conversations about New Markets tax credits. One of the things that they have as part of that structure is being able to create some workforce development aspect, and maybe get a couple folks to come in here and actually put together a workshop where we can talk about it. If that's something that the agency is okay with, we can set that up and try to coordinate it, and we can kind of do it in conjunction and kind of do it jointly with the entities that are represented here today, and maybe make that work.
Can we come in before every quarter? Can we do it in interim?
We can. It's just a matter of coordinating the effort, and it's gonna take someone taking the lead on it. So I think that's gonna be the big part.
I'll work to make it happen. If you can just provide me with the contact that you said.
I'll get you contacts for that, and then, anyone else who has contacts, just share, and then that way we can make it work together. All right. Anything else? Moving on. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Black and North Tiff? Seeing no one from the north. Black South? Mr. Russo, you got anything else? You get a report during public comment?
I would just be reiterating my public comment, sir.
Any other reports? Revitalize, you got anything?
Only one quick. I'll be great when he done. We had our first Sweets on St. John's dessert stroll Saturday evening, and we had over 200 people, adults plus many children bouncing off the walls after some sugar. But everybody seemed to have a good time, and so we had a great turnout for the first time out, and that was great. People really enjoyed it. We had folks come from Jacksonville, Maitland just for that, so, and they really enjoyed it. So just want to give them that.
Thank you very much. Job well done.
I have a few questions.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Griffith, is the clock tower progressing?
Yes, sir. It's being sandblasted currently, and we're working with the county on the final permits for the foundation.
And the clock workings are being worked on?
Yes, sir, they are.
Great, thank you.
Well, it keeps correct time twice a day.
And how is the Madison Street project progressing?
They're a little bit behind schedule. We're actually going to try and schedule a meeting with the contractor tomorrow to get some definitive dates on some of the subcontractors. They were not out there today. We were not happy about that. So should have a better update after tomorrow.
You know, we have the same issue with 9th Street. I'd say that there's no one there half the time.
Well, we just
I
talked
live
about
there, and it's like,
We just thought about both today. Actually, they had two crews on 9th Street today, so there was some movement today. We had a city crew out, and there was also the DOT crew that was there as well, so they were in full force today.
If kind of to piggyback on what our fellow downtown representative stated, I know I got a few calls about it, and it was filtered through you all. Is there some kind of way that we will be able to get some kind of communication? I don't think it's more of them not being out there, it's them kind of being stuck and not knowing what's truly going on. So I don't know if we can send an email blast to the North Side Historic and have them blast it out to their people, but just some kind of communication so they'll feel as if they are in the know as to what's going on.
We have actually,
I sent a communication.
yeah, 3rd Street, we have done we have passed them out door to door. The last one we did was about 3 weeks ago,
Yes,
I
ma'am.
think, yeah.
Yep.
So we actually have gone door to them and given them updates on what's going on. It's time to do another one.
But before Zariah left, I had sent an email communication, I think he was on that email, about, and they supposed to have like an email communication with all of them, and Tom Townsend and the rest of the group, as it relates to the work that was going on and the progress that was making, whatever milestones they were making. I wanted to make sure that the people were still communicated as to
We
what it
actually
was.
had a meeting at a home. Went to that. We actually met.
I went out and visited down, yeah, so.
But after that time,
Right.
we actually met at the old Azalea House, and we actually met with the residents there.
Right.
And a group came out, and we informed them, and then that's when the idea of putting out the newsletter, or just like an information piece.
That's also when the scope grew to it, there were.
Right.
Yes.
And you gotta, we're on change order number 7 is coming up on this agenda. There have been numerous change orders that have changed the scope, lengthened everything. It's, there's been a lot happening with this project. It's just very different from what we started off with.
And part of the frustration and the reason we asked for the meeting for tomorrow with the president of the company is because we haven't seen the bodies on a consistent basis out there. Mr. Griffith walked the property, and unbeknownst to him, I actually walked the property probably a few hours later, and we didn't see anybody. And so one of our concerns is that there are no bodies on the property, even on the days when they're saying that people are going to be there. And so we want to get a real-time report as to what's going on and what's the true target date of how this thing is going to be done. And when will this be filled so that it can move forward?
That's good.
I know y'all talking about Madison Street. When you finish, I have some questions about Highway 29th Street.
Not sure.
Yeah.
Well, that,
So that's what
that,
Well,
We'll come back now.
were you referring to 9th Street or 3rd Street or both?
3rd Street, we had very similar complaints on 9th for a period of time. I guess it was about a 2-week period with some rain or whatever, but where the crews were not present. Mr. Griffith actually contacted DOT at that point, and since that time, we've gotten more response and more responsiveness, and the crews have actually been out and been mobilized more as related to that. But on 3rd Street, both of us had concerns as to what was going on when we walked the property, because the bricks have been laid on Madison and part of 3rd, but they're small pieces that are left to be done, and there just hasn't been the progress that we expected to come up at this point. So we're having that conversation with the president to make sure that that he understands that this is a priority, because everyone in that neighborhood has been displaced for a year, and this is all post Hurricane Irma. And the big issue is, although there have been some changes, and there were the changes to add the additional brick back to the street, all those things are in place. And where we are now is, once that brick is laid and those curbs are poured, then we find ourselves back in a situation where we can create some semblance of normalcy for the people in that area.
Is this a problem with the contract that was let out? It didn't have any language in there as far as timeline, or? Because what's concerning, when Ms. Trigger said that there were 7 change orders, the first thing that I go to is the scope of work was not written properly, or was this design build? Was there a design professional involved? Somebody dropped the ball if you have that many change orders on, and I believe you're talking a very small project, right? That's the little piece that goes from 1st Street to like 3rd
Some
Street?
of the major changes were actually requested by the neighborhood while it was in process. Like when they requested the roads be re-bricked, both sides of the curbing be redone. Those were change orders. Jonathan can address the rest of them.
The biggest one was the discovery of the existing the existing gravity sewer storm combined that was abandoned some years back.
Sewer storm? That's an oxymoron, isn't it?
Well, you're not supposed to have them anymore, and it wasn't in service, but it was still in the ground, and it was operating as essentially as a huge exfiltration trench. So once they opened their hole up, all that water for as many blocks as we don't even know, because we have no plans on it, I'm assuming at least 11 back up to the railroad tracks, just came into their pit. So we had to address that, and as Mr. Richards inferred, the majority of the change orders were in the direction of the north tip to go ahead and take advantage of the construction and just improve the road while they were
So they really couldn't have a dog in the fight then. If they asked for it, that's.
It's been a combination of many things.
Well, they asked for it, but the other thing was it was projected that we had this thing done like December, and we find ourselves a couple months out, and the movement seems to have slowed.
There are some legitimate excuses and some that are not. The brick contractor not showing up today was not a legitimate excuse.
Great, did it work?
On 9th Street, we just took out the canopy. It was probably the best canopy in the city of Palatka, and it had been there since Mary and I were children. And when I called the state, because I'm like, my gosh, are we going to do something? There are no plans to re-landscape that from the state. It's going to be left bare. And he said that was not in the scope of the work. And I think we need to look into that, because there should be some trees replanted by somebody in that block. But that's one. I'm concerned because 700 St. John's, which is the old Texaco station, there's a code violation on that. There's a code violation on the building next to Angela, which is hindering that's 800, thank you. In 700, it's hindering the sale of both buildings on either side because of the code violations, and the water's coming in and seeping into the other 2 buildings because the roof is gone. And we haven't gotten any word on that. And then I'm still coming out, now that we come out of Dollar General on 7th Street, and that's now a major light right there. there by the old Hester house. Those 2 houses that are derelict, we should give them to the fire department and practice burning them down. You know, it'd be good practice. Mr. Grimes would love a good game.
It's a lot harder, it's a lot harder to do
But I mean,
nowadays
there are
with
2
EPA.
houses that we have homeless people living in, the windows are ripped out, the doors are ripped out, they're disasters. And yet, everyone that goes to Dollar General and comes out at the light, which all of us old people do, sees these dilapidated houses, and we can't seem to do. So I'm wondering what's happening with codes and why we can't deal with, there must be 7 or 8 burned out houses in the city, easy. And we just sit and look at them for years.
We're working on that.
We're working on it.
I mean, a list is being developed.
And
We have been working with
Okay.
the derelict houses. The chief has had a few words with the chief.
We love the fire chief.
No,
the
police chief.
police chief.
I know we love the fire chief.
It falls
He's our
underneath.
number 1 guy.
It
Code
falls
enforcement
underneath.
falls up underneath the police
Right.
department, and we're
Yeah.
actually looking at going to a different code enforcement system altogether.
It's-
Well, you know, it's just, it's a bad reflection on our downtown.
It is.
When these houses, and then you're there and out walk these homeless people that look like the house, and God forgive me, but they need to be somewhere else where there's some services, which isn't in Palatka. But it's just really not the picture we need. And you know, because we have some good things happening. The James Hotel, I don't know if you've seen them, but they're on the 3rd floor working. There's a contract on Palm Furniture Building and on the Magnolia Building. Coke Building. I mean, it's a good time here, and I think we need to see some efforts to improve, to encourage the improvement.
Absolutely.
We agree.
Yes, sir.
Thank
Curb
you.
appeal.
I concur.
Thank you, City Manager. I appreciate that.
We're working that.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Anything else for your comments? Because we're going to close in a second.
You don't want to make an announcement about the
I just want to ask a question.
Let me go through.
Azalea Parade, I
We're
need
gonna
to
close
know
this out.
if you are participating in the parade. The festival is in 3.5 weeks. I hope that you will participate in that. And I'm praying for good weather.
Thank you. Commissioner Campbell.
Thank you for everything.
I would like to know how much of the property between the curb and the sidewalk on 9th Street is going to be taken. Any more of it be taken up by the sidewalk?
We already talked about it, sir.
Yeah, the horizontal width of the road is supposed to stay the same, Ms. Mary. If you'd like, I can show you the plans at my office tomorrow. You can
Okay,
stop by.
I'll check back with you on that. And we're having problems with our phone system. Some of that phone system goes under that, and then when I get to the phone people and they saying with them, they've been to my house, I think 4 times, because the phone goes dead on us. And they say there's nothing they can do, is they're cutting the lines and stuff down there. I want to know if they're giving me a true answer for that, or is that just a good excuse for the phone company, or can we ask them to be?
It's a Comcast question.
It's a company.
It is a Comcast question. I think one of the things that you got to understand is that, you know, part of your complaint is it's raining in your building and it's flooding your building based upon the water not having anywhere to go. The inconvenience is that now they're fixing the road so that the water has somewhere to go. You're going to find yourself in a situation when they dig that infrastructure up, they're going to break some stuff, and it's going to create that situation. So you can't. So it's almost like people want their roads fixed, but they don't want. But then they complain about the road being fixed because they can't get to where they got to go. You can't have it both ways. You got to get one or the other.
Man, nobody understand that no better than I do, because I live right there on the road. But if I got a business that depends on a telephone and people trying to get me, I just want to ask them to be a little more cautious in when they go in to do some of that stuff.
But it's not. But it's not.
I know I'm
But
gonna be
it's DOT doing the work through their contractors. It's not the city.
But I'm
And so-
asking that can the city request that they be a little more,
I don't know how responsive DOT is going to be to that request. I just don't. And so he's texting as we're talking, but I just don't know how responsive they're gonna be to those requests. There's gonna be some accommodation, but at the same time, they're trying to get it done. We're asking them to get it done, but we gotta know that there's gonna be some inconvenience, and unfortunately, they may hit a line.
I know about the inconvenience. I stayed there and that road wasn't always like that when we got there. They widened it and done a whole lot of stuff, but it's just that, I know it's taking a while. It's just that, make a request whether they do anything about it or not. That
The best contact is gonna be Mr. Griffith, because he's gonna have a direct contact to the project manager.
Ms. Mary, while construction's going on, you may want to take that phone number and forward it to another phone, a cell phone or something like that.
That's a good idea.
Hey, I got it right here. It's my phone in my pocket, my office in my pocket. I had to do that because we did not know that the phone was out. I just had people, somebody knew to call on the cell phone to let me know. That's why our business.
They know how to find when they do business. Commissioner McCoskey. Commissioner Moore.
I just want to thank everybody for the input and thank Mandy for this awesome report. This is great. And I'm looking forward to the other reports that we'll be getting in to also our Public Works Director for those reports, setting up that report for the subscription. It's not flowing through yet, but thanks for setting up the. Right. Are you getting? I got it, but it's empty right now. But just I'd like to thank them for all the reports that we're going to be getting going forward. I think it's going to give us more insight, and we'll be able to answer some questions to the public a little bit more from an educational standpoint. So that's all I have.
Mr. Ross.
And y'all may have addressed this with what Commissioner Borm just said, but is there a spreadsheet that I could get to bring me up to speed on what's going on in the three TIFs? So I'll just have an idea. I know you've got the 3rd Street project, 9th Street project, and anything else that's fixing to happen or happening.
We usually get project updates, but the easiest thing to do, I think, is just to have a sit down with both Ms. Becker and Mr. Griffith and Ms. Tucker, and so that they can give you the history of the TIF and the CRA plan,
okay,
and kind of do an orientation from that standpoint.
And some of it is the TIF project alone, like the TIF that you just got. Some of it's kind of a combination of a city project that is being funded somewhat through TIF dollars, like the potable water project in the TIF districts. And I have an extra report sitting right there on the edge of that table. I'll be glad to give you before you walk out.
In the few meetings I've attended, it just, and I did this with the county, by getting a spreadsheet, I can look at it real fast and say, these are projects that are currently in place and that are under contract, and future ones. If y'all have the document of that laying around, if you just email me, that'd be great. Thank you.
That's it.
At the last CRA meeting, you all directed me to get with Mr. Deputy about the Christmas parade. I'm happy to report, Mr. Deputy, I don't know if you want to address this or not.
We committed to 10 more years.
Oh, wow. Is that true? Is that true?
Wow. I was hoping for that.
Is it on a contract?
So your last parade is
He's got it. We just
It's
got
on
it.
videotape.
The last parade might be the last parade.
Thank you, sir.
You like Jay-Z.
He can't give it up.
Okay, well, we have when us go, we have a Louisiana.
But that's a perfect example. Something understudied.
John Alexander is our parade marshal this year, honoring the mural committee for their work.
All right. So we can close out. Good conversation for today. Also remember, we're continuing, Black Young Professionals has the permit for Blue Crab, Rhythm on the River, whatever it's going to be called. So keep your eyes and ears open. There may be a meeting call at some point to kind of discuss that from the position of what the CRA is going to do. But other than that, we're continually having a lot of events downtown. Bassmaster Elite was, I think, a major event for our downtown area. The estimate was roughly $2.5 million in impact to this community. And So it was a great event that allows us to have Palatka on ESPN for 2 weeks, and that type coverage is second to none. And so it was a great showing for Palatka, and I think it was just something really good. I talked to the CEO, who actually said, we'll see you next time. And so I think that's a good thing as we move forward. And so, go ahead.
One quick thing. I just want to thank the Public Works and everyone, police and fire, who worked so hard to get the city ready for the Bassmasters Elite Tournament. I had nothing but compliments. Thanks to Colonel Joe Wells for the loan of the prison crews who did the sand blasting up and down St. John's Avenue to get those sidewalks cleaned. It made a world of difference. Congratulations on a great event. And PYP is going to have a massive volunteer opportunities for the Blue Crab. So.
All right.
Anything else?
Most you gotta do.